All right, are we good?
Almost.
Almost, okay.
All right. We are now live to YouTube.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, everybody. I want to first begin by apologizing for my voice and my absence there in person. I'd hoped to be there in person, but I'm in the throes of COVID, and actually, this conversation is the longest I will have been upright or talking since Friday. So I'm happy to be here with you all. And good evening, and I welcome you to what I think may be one of our last, if not the last, meetings of this task force as such. Um, and so I want to appreciate everyone's now, as a short-term body, but a relatively long-term engagement and commitment to this process. Um, and we'll begin as we do every time with introductions. So for folks in the room, if you want to introduce yourselves with your names, maybe your awards, whatever you feel comfortable doing to get us started, that'd be great.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Robert Marshall. I am the Vice Chair of the Human Rights Commission and a member of this task force, and I will pass it off to my left.
Christina Ballard. I'm a member of this task force and a commissioner on the Human Rights Commission.
Chris Snyder, city staff, and Chloe is here as well.
Oh, good. Okay. Chloe, do you want to introduce yourself or?
He doesn't have a microphone for her.
Uh, I guess she could come up to the table, but Chloe is our intern through this month.
She's coming.
Hi, my name is Chloe, and I'm
Thank you, Chloe. We heard you, then we didn't hear you, but Chloe is our intern here with the commission and with this task force. All
this
right,
is last week with us too.
and her last week with us as well. Yes. Um, well, we'll all have a lot of gratitude for Chloe here in a bit, but she's been just an enormous buoy for us in the work we've been doing. So really appreciate Chloe's time and energy, and she'll be with the probably at the commission meeting as well on Wednesdays. Haley, do you want to get us started online?
Sure. Julie Barenbaum, Paralympian and Salem, Oregon resident. Also, thank you, Chloe, for being the intern for our task force. It's greatly appreciated.
Great. Tony, do you want to go next?
Yes, I'm Tony Marys, and I'm a member of this task force and a member of the Human Rights Commission. And yes, thank you, Chloe, for all the work you've done. It's very much appreciated.
Great. Dan, you want to round this out?
Yep, my name is Dan Dickinson. I'm on the the Disability Rights Task Force, and I also run a company for neurodivergent specialties.
Great. Thank you. Chris, did we have any public comment, either in writing or in person tonight?
No, we have not.
And thank you. Do we have any member remarks on non-agenda items? We only have one agenda item. So. Okay. Well, in that case, let's get into the meat of the. Oh, I'm sorry, Haley. Did you have? Go ahead, please.
I do, but I also saw Christina had her
Oh, I am
hand
so
raised.
sorry. I just really
So
jumped
if
the gun all
Christina
the way
wants to go
around.
first.
Let's go in person and then back online. I'm sorry, Christina, please.
Oh, I just wanted to say a really good thing has already come about from this task force because I met Dan and he told me about one of the things he was working on, and I was able to help him and support him in his endeavor to have a sensory friendly space in the Salem Center Mall for Black Friday weekend.
Oh, great.
And he did a really great job with it.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Christina. Can I add to that?
Please.
So I was able to survey or almost all of the people who entered and used the space, and even people who were interested in the space. And there was overwhelming feedback that a permanent space would be essential to the community. So I have not quite aggregated all of the information yet from the surveys. However, it was an overwhelming response that people would want to be able to anticipate that type of environment. And if it were a permanent environment, it would absolutely help them be part of the community.
That's great, Dan. How many folks did you end up surveying?
I believe I have 80 surveys over 2 days.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for doing that, both of you. And be great to see some version of those data to think through them too. That's great. Thank you. That would be a wonderful thing to replicate every year and to have it spread across the city in different events like that. All right, Haley, Tony. I think Haley may have gone first.
Also, that's really awesome, Dan. That's really cool. I'd like to see that data as well. I was just curious how last month's meeting went since I was out with a migraine and the idea of any light was horrible, even being on a Zoom.
Yeah, thank you. We covered. I'm trying to think. We covered quite a bit. There was a presentation from Salem Housing Authority. Nicole, the director there, came and spoke to us, and we had a lengthy conversation about the housing authority broadly, and then also the particularities of the things that we were finding and bringing up to her. Probably the most actionable takeaway from that was that she's committed to putting in a door opener, a button, a push button opener for the community space that we were in but didn't have an accessible entrance for.
That's
Um,
awesome.
right away, and then we were kind of going back and forth around how to make living on the first floor especially more accessible to more people. I don't know if we really got to a place of consensus, but I think it was generative and folks had a lot of good input. I was glad that Nicole was there. I actually saw her at the last council meeting as well. She appreciated the back and forth. So anyway, so that was actually the bulk of it, and then we spent actually comparatively little time on the actual contents of the recommendations, but hopefully everyone's gotten to see in advance the recommendations that Chloe has been really dutifully working on. There was that document of all of the notes from the conversations and the different inputs that we've had, and then there's this kind of more concise and kind of summary of particular recommendations around different areas, whether it's housing or city services or public spaces, pedestrian accessibility, community engagement, etc. And Chloe's just, I think, done a wonderful job of taking a lot of the big ideas and making them actionable while maintaining kind of a jurisdiction in mind. What are we able to do as a city? And so that's kind of what we walked away from last time, and we are here to kind of really think about this draft of these recommendations that Chloe has teed up so nicely for us. But I don't know if anybody wanted to add more about what last meeting entailed. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you're feeling better. Migraines are terrible.
Yeah, they're the not fun.
Tony, I think you also had a comment.
No.
Okay, great. Well, in that case, let's dive into the wonderful recommendations that Chloe has drafted. from all of our feedback and input. As a reminder in terms of timeline, we do have a kind of a fast turnaround in terms of presenting to the commission, which is meeting on Wednesday. Um, but we're gonna obviously continue our conversations in some capacity or another. So it's not like everything has to be perfect and solid and done. But I think getting to a consensus on how we feel about these recommendations, so that we can move forward and sharing them with the commission for Wednesday would be the goal for this meeting tonight. Um, if that feels good to folks. Okay, go ahead, Dan, please.
So I know if we're going to go over the overall document, I have spent significant time going through that document and also comparing to what recommendations were provided, what topics were spoken about in previous meetings, as well as different recommendations that I personally brought up. And I have noticed that there's a few gaps that have not made it into the document at all. So I just put something together really quick. I'm going to try to keep it to under 10 minutes, but I'll just try to quickly go through the things that I noticed, if that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, does that feel good to folks? Is that where we want to begin? Okay, I'm getting a thumbs up. All right, Dan, please go ahead.
Okay, so the first thing that I noticed was that there's no recommendation for a permanent commission, which was one of the things that we discussed kind of globally. Was that was one of our main topics, was to establish a permanent disability rights commission. However, that's not being mentioned in the draft at all. So I would recommend adding to establish a permanent disability rights commission with at least 2 required autistic or neurodivergent seats. The second one was we talked briefly about employment. And one of those were employment barriers or supports in any of the documents. The number one thing that came out of my listening session on September 17th was that getting and keeping a job after a diagnosis is the hardest part of their lives. And I believe we should add a section on neurodivergent employment support and city partnerships over, yeah. The other thing was about within transit. We did talk about transit several times. I believe it was Route 9 and 19. It came up in several different task force meetings that the drivers don't necessarily understand the invisible disability needs or service animal needs. And so I do want to advise and recommend training for like chariots drivers or public servants that have had interactions with people. And one of those topics that came up as well was being able to respond to emergency situations where a disabled person is involved. And one of those things we talked about was, for example, somebody's a wheelchair falling off the curb and then them falling over. We talked about the
Wait, Dan.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Let's take those first. I think you've mentioned maybe
Okay.
4 or 5 things, and let's talk about them.
Yes.
And thank you for bringing them up. The commission, I think, is something that is missing in these recommendations. I also noted in my comment on one of my comments on the document that we'd also talked about having some kind of like maybe kind of a review committee for planning and parks and folks like things like that have more of like an institutionalized voice around just overseeing some of the planning, because it seems to be kind of piecemeal the way that some of the planning happens. Some departments are getting input, some aren't. It's kind of to the whim and whimsy of the planners, which is, I mean, some planners are amazing, and some may be less fluent with these sort of things. So having an institutional voice, the city, to help with that, I think, is something else that was missing. That may live at the commission, it may not. It's just in that vein of having bodies that represent the community, or in part, right, to be another check-in for the city. So I agree with you there. Uh, I think you went from that to employment. Is that right, Dan?
Correct.
And so talk to me more about what you were sharing about the employment piece.
So education on neurodivergent hiring practices within city partnerships.
Okay.
And that was just one topic that it did get brought up a couple of different times, that maintaining employment, even post-diagnosis, is extremely difficult for the neurodivergent community.
So how would that talk to me more about what your vision is for the city? So the city would be like for all of its contractors and all of the procurement it does, or what do you mean
Um,
exactly?
I think there should be some type of language within, oh, where am I trying to look for it? Is it OVRS? The like employment hiring guidelines for disabled adults and protections within employment. Trying to remember exactly where that is. One second, I'll find it here. Sorry, take just another moment.
It's okay. Take your time.
Actually, so kind of what I was saying with like the EEOC and equal employment opportunities, City of Salem does have hiring practices and interview guidelines for qualifying neurodivergent adults. And then I have a note on
I'm sorry, Dan. I'm just not quite understanding. So you want the city to provide
so kind of like we have the
what to
ADA
whom?
guidelines and equal opportunity.
Okay.
So we do have situations where, okay, I'm not extremely versed on the inner workings. So what I guess where I'm trying to lead to is when a neurodivergent person discloses and it receives a diagnosis, even during employment, there are judgments made that will put that person's job at risk. But within the current EEOC and ADA, there's nothing protecting that discrimination at all. And that's basically, I would say, discrimination based off of personality types. So I'm not sure exactly where that would fit.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about what relationship that has with the city, and how to best
Does,
make that
does does the
right.
city affect anything with like ADA? Or I know we kind of talked about that a little bit, but not really.
No, the city doesn't affect. I mean,
Uh,
the city is bound by ADA. We could definitely, I think we could recommend that the city, incorporates those kind of practices with its contractors during its hiring process. Maybe makes literature available for employers if they're interested as like an opt-in option. But I'm trying to think from like an enforcement perspective or something more
I guess
material.
even if it comes to with like city positions themselves, positions directly with the city itself and the city's hiring practices.
Yeah, that could definitely be something that we could recommend. Absolutely.
Okay. And
Hey,
then we got
Haley.
into trans.
Sorry, Dan. I think Haley has a question.
Sorry, I was just thinking about what we're talking about the hiring process and everything, as even with physical disabilities. I know we've had issues with, I remember when I was younger, Starbucks tried to deny employment for someone with dwarfism because they needed a step stool, and it counted as like, even though it counted as, um, sorry, I can't think of the right word, understandable accommodations or easy accommodations, I guess.
Reasonable, reasonable.
Yeah, reasonable. Thank you. I was like, it's a mix of those two words. Would like having a resource guide essentially for like that through not just through the city and maybe through the city for employers to have access to for when it comes to hiring neurodivergent and maybe even interviewing neurodivergent uh, members of the city.
Yeah, I
Something
think
that we could do for like HR people and everything.
that would be an amazing resource if we can offer that.
So I just want to understand, is that different from the 5.2 staff training and education? I mean, it's maybe more specific than it was written, but that talks about staff training education for city staff around services spaces, communication differences, communication styles, patience and pacing, kind of neurodiversity awareness, bilingual support. But I think you're saying that you want something more robust than that.
Yeah, I think like kind of what Haley was highlighting there too is a resource for general hiring practices, even I guess outside the city, to where we can educate our city staff on certain aspects of communication, but the even within the city, the interview process, the process to get through the multifaceted steps to even get an interview can be a challenge depending on the person themselves. And there's no mandate or there's no resource to be able to turn to say, how do I handle this situation? And then when it comes to within employment, if there's a situation of this person is just extremely antisocial and they don't want to talk during meetings, that shouldn't influence their employment within the job. And again, there's no resource to be able to turn to know how to handle that type of situation.
All right. So it sounds like, creating a literature for employers and prospective employees themselves in an inside and outside of the city, uh, you know, infrastructure in the government to
And then
have
what,
access
what
to
Haley's
this
also
resource.
mentioning as well is somewhere to where if somebody turned me down at a job because I couldn't reach a certain height, where can I go to the city to find resources on how to address it?
Okay. Yeah, we can try to package that, I think.
Okay. I just want go ahead, Haley.
Sorry, I've had personal experience in interviews as well with people. They'll look at my resume because they don't see my body, like my stature online. And then I go into the interview and you can literally see the hiring person's entire body language shift
Mm.
because then they start assuming my height affects job performance or the other multiple disabilities I have. Like I don't necessarily disclose I have a service dog with me at all times for non-physical needs, and you just watch body changes and it's
Yeah.
discouraging.
Yeah.
So I guess my broad spectrum on that is just recommending a deeper dive into a resource page for employment.
All right. Thank you, Dan. I think uh, your next one was about chariots. Is that right?
Correct. So we talked about chariots and responding to situations,
Yeah.
and that was brought up in a couple different task force meetings, and I'm not seeing that within the document either.
So, two comments. One is all chariots recommendations wouldn't live here because chariots is a different government. Um, it's not within this. The city of Salem doesn't run the bus system here. It's a different district, a special district. And so all of the
Can
uh,
the city offer some type of when we did talk about how offering training and awareness to city officials, can we expand that to any public service official or anybody who's
well,
working directly with the public?
Chariots does a lot of internal training around disability already. They are. I mean, I know we definitely have gotten feedback about it not maybe always landing, but
Yes.
it. I will say. Uh, People with disabilities ride chariots at an extremely high rate with extremely high level of satisfaction. And so, Chariot takes it very, very seriously, and they do in general an excellent job of being responsive to folks' disabilities. And so I know that they take it seriously. I mean, it might be something that we can take to them as feedback that we've gotten through this process and see what they do with that. We can show them
Definitely.
data, but I do. It's not when we think about tailoring these to what's within our area. I think that might be outside of it.
No, that definitely makes
Citizen
sense.
government.
I was just trying to bring it up because that was something that we've discussed several times, but it wasn't mentioned in that. But what you're saying makes perfect sense.
And then the point on training police and kind of community enforcement, I think is super well taken. I think that can be, I think that could fall also under staff training and education under 5.2 and just making that explicit and elaborating on that, ensuring that um, our police force is particularly trained around disability and how to respond to people um, who have particular kind of urgent or emergent needs out in public. I think would be really, really helpful.
And I would highlight in that aspect. So right now, Salem Police Department and Fire Department all have sensory kits that they carry around with them. But those sensory kits are being created and distributed by the community and through nonprofits. And
Interesting.
that's a resource that the community has deemed necessary. However, it's not a standard practice within the city.
Who distributes them?
The Autism Society of Oregon does.
Interesting. That might be something that we recommend, just having as a rule, some kind of rulemaking for the.
I would agree. Because right now we're using fundraised money in order to provide those kits.
Yeah, I say let's include it and just see what rally check we get from our budget people. But it's yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have some more, Dan? Okay. Um, Anybody else have any immediate reactions to this document? I saw Christina had left quite a few comments. I don't know, Christina, if you wanted to.
Chloe had incorporated them.
Oh,
That's
okay.
fine. You saw all my comments today, right? Yeah.
Chloe's on
Sorry,
top of it. I'm sorry, who said my name? Was that you, Dan?
it was. I didn't realize that I was muted.
Oh,
So there
okay.
were a few other ones that I wanted to bring
Of
up.
course.
We can pause as necessary if you want to. And now we talked about like the Riverfront Park being slated to have a fenced playground. However, in the document, we haven't necessarily addressed that as a recommendation for future parks, but it was discussed in several different sessions. And then also having like a secure picnic areas as well. That was discussed. Again, Riverfront Park is meeting that requirement on their own, based off of just the design of the park. However, there's no formal recommendation for having that part of the permanent going forward design.
What about, I'm sorry, Dan, what about 3.1, inclusive park zones?
Oh, sorry, let me pull that back up.
Developed fenced, sensory-friendly sections with calming color, shade, and clear boundaries include enclosed picnic areas where people can gather with reduced risk of elopement or overstimulation. Use Salem Hospital Sensory Park and kinds of rapid as design references.
Okay, yeah. So what I wasn't seeing in there was the like fully fenced park, but I guess in essence that is, yeah. Okay. Thank you. That actually explains it.
I just want to make sure we were
my,
capturing.
in my understanding of it, but yeah, that does capture it. And then
Just before we move on, Dan, just for just a temperature check here, so this is a recommendation, but what that might translate into is updating the R Salem plan, for example, to require that for all like actually update our planning rules, to have all parks do that. That might be something that comes from this, for example, just to give you a sense of what that might.
Oh, yes. No, I do see that now that you've pointed that out.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Nope, a couple of these we've already actually brought up, but and the other thing was just I wanted to kind of bring up what Christina brought up earlier was about the permanent sensory rooms. Um, that was brought up a couple different times over the past couple months. I did pilot that just this last weekend and found that that was a very highly spoken about practice. And also on the September 17th listening session, we did have a couple people bring it up, saying that if there was more not just pop up of certain dates and times, but a permanent accessibility to that type of resource. And that can go into what I was talking about with even attending political events. And even though, yes, I can attend right now through Zoom, there are still people who would feel more heard and more present if they were in person. And having access to those environments for regulation purposes in like civic centers, libraries, large city events, the mall, those are being, people are speaking out that those are a access to participation.
Great. Where would you want to see that included?
That's an interesting challenge.
It's okay if you don't have a answer now. We can work with Chloe to see where we can place that.
I'm just kind of skimming back through real quick here in my notes. Yeah, there's just I am 22 pages is a lot to go through. Um, I guess that would possibly under section 2. For parks and public spaces. But that would be not how we being within built structures rather than or actual buildings rather than just in outdoor spaces.
Okay, and how would you phrase it?
I'm sorry, can you clarify that question?
How would you like it to be phrased, the recommendation?
As you probably experienced, I work a lot better in writing, so that I would have to get back to you on that particular phrasing,
Okay.
and I'll take note of that.
Any other comments, Dan?
Nope, that covers all of my highlights.
Okay. Thank you for being so scrupulous. Any other reactions, comments?
I just wanted to say thank you, Dan, for being able to write all of that up because when I had my migraine, he was able to articulate the things I was debating, trying to email and hopefully put together in a not mishmash migraine way.
Thank you. And if you have a better way of phrasing something I did, I would definitely appreciate the partnership.
Oh yeah, I can go over some stuff and see if there's anything that I wanted to add on or can maybe reword a little.
Tony, I was wondering if you had any reactions to some of this housing recommendations. That's really the kind of the most content heavy part of all these recommendations. We have 5 recommendations under housing. Did you have any feedback on those, or do you think it kind of more or less captures, hopefully more than less, but captures the spirit of the input we got from folks?
I think I think it's the best that we can hope for right now. I mean, especially after listening to Nicole's presentation last month. There are so many things that we don't control that have strict controls by organizations bigger than the city of Salem. I think that we would benefit by having this body continue and to have it monitor what happens with Salem Housing Authority. And I think that that would be very important. And it sounds like Nicole is very open to having some guidance from an unbiased body like us. So, I mean, and that is probably the biggest thing that I'm driving for, is that I don't think that the work here is done. I think that follow through, I think creating a feedback mechanism of some sort is where we might want to go. You know, I don't think that we've had the opportunity since we've had these listening sessions to even take that next step yet. But I think that if we continued this work, that that would be what could be included, and I would like to see it go in that direction.
So I think that's absolutely right, Tony. I'm wondering if maybe one of these recommendations should be, because the people who have the power to appoint or to create a Salem Disabilities Commission or a disability review board. This is an idea that I was kind of floating around even in the summer, but akin to like the police review board, people who review kind of complaints against the police, or in our case, proactively looking at helping partner with like planning and help people make informed decisions and have more accessible designs. Um, the people who have the authority to establish those kind of bodies is city council. But one recommendation might be to have in the interim the HRC establish a committee, a disability rights committee. And it could be as simple as we go from this task force to a standing committee, and just reconstitute in that way. And I'll tell you, that's really easy. All you have to do is ask me, and I mean, I'll ask for a vote from the commission and ask for staff capacity. But yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Um, in other words, it's at the discretion of the chair, so it's not a big problem. So that might be one of our recommendations too, at this time, because what you maybe didn't say, Tony, but what you said and what you alluded to is that it's going to be a lot more follow up, a lot more conversations. We have all this preliminary work, and honestly, even I'm kind of left with, well, what do we do with it now? We all the work is still kind of ahead of us. We have to check in with our partners again. Here's what we've heard. Here's what you've said. What does this look like in practice? Is this doable? And how do we implement this? There's that whole section 6 about implementation and accountability. How do we do this? How do we operationalize it in the short term, in the medium term, in the long term? And some of these things, as Tony said, are long term, half a decade long, out of our control sort of projects. Some of them are not. Some of them are things that we can do in the next 6 months. But you know, without a body that's really checking in on people and asking these questions, it's not going to happen. And it's not for not wanting to have it happen. It's just we all know, Salem, city of Salem is resource stretched and oversaturated and under capacity, and that's just the truth of it. So we have to be able to support folks, and them us in return, right, to continue the work. So maybe that's part of the recommendation, is that we have a permanent committee set up under the HRC. And then if and when another body is established by council, then we're better for it. But right now, just having a committee.
Can I
Joaquin,
ask a question?
Joaquin,
Yeah.
Chris.
Go ahead, Chris. Sorry,
sorry.
Tony. I think Chris is trying.
So yes, one of the points that I was going to make is that the HRC, this is one of the responsibilities that falls underneath the HRC. And this board, this task force is majority of HRC members. So the follow-up and stuff like that could happen during the regular HRC meetings. Just putting that out there. And that doesn't require additional staffing or additional staff time.
You mean doing the work of the would-be committee as part of the full commission?
Correct.
Yeah, that's definitely an idea, and I know a committee would demand more time of you, Chris. And I always try to make decisions based on staff capacity. I will say, in my own personal experience on this commission, the last 4 years or so, is that when something is as targeted or specific as like community engagement or queer rights or disability rights, the general commission is often not well positioned to operationalize those things or to deliver on those things. So for example, that we just don't do the community belonging survey work in the commission because it wouldn't get done. Or if it did, it would be me and Robert sitting with Mary Ann in the cafe, and that happens anyways. And so it'd be it just doesn't work out. So I think there is a balance to strike around, maybe it's not a committee, maybe it is, but we just have to find the best way to ensure that the work isn't lost, because it does tend in that direction when when it's the commission generally that carries a project out, is that it just doesn't get done. Um, and so, and now what I will say that may not mean is, it may not mean we meet every month. Maybe it means we meet every other month or something. I don't know. I'm making that up. But so there are ways to negotiate that time element. But I do recognize it as an important limitation. But I also recognize that we lose steam, not for not wanting to, but we do. But it's definitely something that you and I will have to talk about and come to an understanding about. Um,
Yeah, this is not my only board or commission that I work for.
yeah, I recognize that too. Yeah, it's always a a juggling game. It may mean we sunset another committee, and I don't know. I don't know what it means. Okay, Tony, I think you may have had something else as well.
Well, I was going to ask if when the commission originally commissioned our task force, um, what were the expectations? I mean, knowing that you were part of that body, what did you think that this was going to look like? Did you expect us to gather this much data? Did you?
Honestly, Tony, I think I've said this maybe once or twice in the last 6 months, but uh, originally the ask, what we had a new member of the Human Rights Commission who's no longer on the commission, who was really interested in getting a Salem Disability Rights Commission in town, and he's a lifelong advocate for the community, and he that was really his singular um, goal, which was a respectable one. And my instinct at the time was, I love it, let's do it. And I don't know what that means. Like I don't know how to recommend that. I don't know how to pitch that. I don't know how to make that happen. I live in Salem as a disabled person, but I need to understand a lot more about disability in Salem to even have that conversation and to make that eventuality worthwhile for everybody. So let's have a short-term body. And there was a lot of pushback about that. That was not a popular idea. And the truth is, we didn't have a predetermined understanding of what was going to come of it. I will say, I think the expectation was that a permanent engagement on this topic would arise from it, whether that was a commission at the end right away of this task force, or whether it lived with the HRC in the interim, whatever the case was to be. We didn't know, but I think that expectation was definitely there, that this was the beginning of a sustained engagement. Um, and I want to make good on that expectation. I think that feels really appropriate and necessary. And I think we're just gearing up. That if nothing else, what we've learned is that there's a lot to do, and we all know this, but just to confront it so explicitly, these things are so complicated. I'm accountable, you're not accountable, they're accountable. That lives over here, doesn't live over here. I don't do that. You do this, or I do half of that. Or, there's just so much, so little accountability and so little agency sometimes, even among our government partners, that it does feel like every effort gets diluted and lost. And so just trying to clarify that and to make it something that is more actionable, I think is the priority now, and how to sustain that is the big question, alongside of all these recommendations that we've kind of formulated and articulated. Um, so, and to answer your question, I didn't, there was no, this is where we need to be, but I think people did have, in a broad sense, understanding that there would be a long-term commitment to these issues. And so I think I feel what I feel important to me is to honor that expectation and to make it on it. So
Okay, well, given that, um, in this moment, I would propose that, um, part of our recommendation be that, we hang together for maybe another couple of months. We come up with um, a way to monitor improvement. If we could even have some kind of way to measure the recommendations, and like we said, we don't really we know we don't control everything about this, but we could, with the recommendations, set an expectation that, if the city self monitors like improvements in the planning department, and how much they've increased maybe their own knowledge or whatever, and they provide a feedbacks, periodically to the Human Rights Commission. And then the Human Rights Commission, at the time that they feel they might need to intervene and, provide either support or data gathering or something to help the city stay on track, then we convene this task force in an ad hoc manner as needed. Maybe that's part of our recommendation to the HRC, is that it sets itself up that way so that we only reconvene when we need to help keep the plan on track.
yeah, I think those are all excellent considerations. My gut instinct, Tony, is that this will be the future of this body will be in large part just a conversation among you all with the commission on Wednesday and in the meetings ahead. How do we sustain this work? And that conversation is going to involve all of us as members of this task force and as members of the commission and with staff. Chris raises a really important point. And so the question will be, how do we continue? Um, and I think everyone shares a recognition of the need to continue and to get it right. And so how do we just do that? And so I don't know if that quite addresses everything you've shared, but I definitely agree that we have to figure out how to sustain it. Haley, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to voice that I'm afraid that if we don't have the consistency of a group like us around, it's very easy to slip back into the ways that were. And then you have this whole problem again, where you're maybe starting another task force that is not permanent, and then it works for a year or so, and then, oh, we're slipping again.
I agree. Yeah. Dan, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I'm seconding that as well. I've actually heard people be like, okay, so what happens after December? Are you just going to forget about us? And so there is a concern, including with myself, that if there is not an established permanency to disability rights, and some form of regular check-ins. That it will just go back to where it was.
And by the way, we've heard that from staff too. I mean, we've had staff come and say it's just really great to come and talk to people about this. So, Eunice has been there how many, half a dozen times to talk about ideas that she has for the planning department. And so I think that's really valuable for staff too, Dan. It's obviously we have a kind of a social contract with community members that we've asked to share their experiences with us and then to do something about that. And then also commitment to staff, that there's a resource. Where we are, whomever is on this body in whatever capacity it continues, are doing a service to the city by providing expertise and lived experience as well and volunteering that time. And the city has not often been very successful with that outside of the boards and commission infrastructure. I mean, something that comes to mind for me is I'm on this I don't I mean I'm a I don't bike, obviously I can barely get up, but I'm on this bike advisory thing for this city. We meet every year, once a year. The reason it came to mind is because I just got an email this morning about how our annual meeting is coming up, and I'm just like, oh yeah. And does that do work? Yeah, but is that work greatly diminished for only meeting annually? Yeah. And so, how do we, I'm not equating disability to biking, but my point stands, which is that, this, for something as complicated and pervasive as disability and as diverse as disability, we have to have the sustained engagement. Again, the question we return to the question of what does that look like? And what does that mean given the capacity that we have? If we all agree that it needs to be done, what does it look like? Okay.
City staff. Hey, Joaquin.
Yeah.
So in regards to the recommendations being put forward, do you consider that the recommendations as currently written are at a point where they're ready to go live to the HRC for a recommendation, or is there still some refinement and fine tuning that needs to take place in those recommendations that you're looking at? How does that, what's the road going forward and what does that look like? Are we taking this to HRC tomorrow or on Wednesday on the 3rd, or is there still some refinement that needs to take place?
I have an answer to that, but do folks have a reaction that they want to share? How are you all feeling about where we are with these recommendations?
This is Christina. I'm good with them as long as the things that we've noted are going to be incorporated, and Chloe has stated that that's going to happen.
Thank you, Christina. Dan, go ahead.
And I agree. I wouldn't say as written. I would say that I know Christina put in some notes through email. So there have been, and then my comments in this section or this session today. I believe that there are some things that should be added or some of the language changed, like as we've discussed today, but not as of the document that was sent out yesterday or last week.
Any other thoughts?
I just would say I think I would agree with Dan that as written at this moment, it does need a little bit of tweaking before we do go forward and say this is 100% what we think is the best option.
Yeah, my reaction is maybe I have two things. These are these recommendations that we could deliver to council? No. Uh, are they recommendations that make HRC in a position to take action tomorrow? Probably not. But we thought this is a real document, a testament to the work that we've done, and Chloe's done a really wonderful job of compiling them. And I think we've thrown everything at her, and she's just been doing such an amazing job of digesting it and articulating it. What I think Wednesday looks like for me, Chris, to answer your question, is uh, it's our first real update to the commission about what we've been doing, and to just tell them here's where we're at, including everything people have been commenting on tonight. I think is valuable, and I have every reason to believe that Chloe will do that very well. And uh, talking with the commission about it on Wednesday feels important, if for no other reason than because we're losing Chloe this week. And to have her kind of help us present it and continue to work on it with us. And the truth is, the commission needs to provide feedback as well, and to have that conversation and have some clarity going into the new year about what the work is going to look like moving forward, I think is important. Um, and these recommendations will concretize and be refined in the course of those conversations in that process.
Yeah, my question really would be, so do you need another meeting for this body to
You mean
finalize?
after Wednesday,
Yeah.
after the commission? Yeah, I mean, I was pretty open with you all early on, and as recently as a few months ago. I didn't. I mean, the goal was December, um, and what trumps that is just our comfort with where we are. And so, do folks feel like we would like to obviously convene again in this capacity after our conversation with the HRC on Wednesday, or what? Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, and I'm confident in your assessment and what you said about um, the updates that you're willing to make. And I said I'd get back to you on the verbiage for one particular part. I can get back to you on that by the end of the day today. And I have faith that it can be presented on Wednesday with the changes that have been discussed.
Well, I think the question remains though, Dan, would you like to meet again in this body after Wednesday?
I wouldn't, but can I be invited to observe the Wednesday meeting?
Oh, of course. I think the hope is that
The
everyone
public
can
meeting?
make it
Yeah,
on Wednesday.
I would just like to observe the Wednesday meeting, but I don't know if there's a exact reason to meet again as the task force, unless somebody else thinks there is.
Okay. What are other people's thoughts?
I mean, I would like to go. I'm planning on going to the meeting. And I don't know. I feel like it depends on how the meeting goes if we want to have a debrief on how it went and if there's or like if the choice is to have us be a more permanent body, would we meet after next month as the start of that? Or I really think it's going to be heavily dependent on how Wednesday goes, is how I feel.
Okay. Tony, Robert, Christina.
I I think we're good to talk about it at the commission.
Okay. Tony, you were going to say something?
I was just gonna say that pretty much think I agree with what Haley said. Um, I think we go on Wednesday, we see what happens, you know. I'm on the commission and obviously I've said that, if we can continue to work a little bit in order to create some kind of a feedback mechanism, that would be my goal.
Okay. Robert.
Yeah, this is Robert here. I agree with the assessment of everybody else. I think the recommendations are solid. My hat is off to Chloe. I wouldn't have been able to produce a document like that, and it was very well put together, and I can't thank her enough articulating everyone's ideas and putting them in such a well formatted document to read and sort through. I think they're, as I mentioned, I think they're solid recommendations, and I agree with everything that was said. That we are probably far off from heading straight to council with these recommendations, but I think they do provide a solid starting point for engaging community stakeholders, whether that be city departments, our local nonprofit organizations, CBOs, private and public sector relationships. I think it's a great foundation to start from. I agree with some of the concerns on whether or not we can accomplish that. Without a more permanent committee. I'm also mindful of staff time, as well as that a majority of the individuals that serve on this body also serve on the Human Rights Commission and are involved in other extracurriculars, when it comes to serving the city. And so I think there's a broader conversation around, how do we continue this work moving forward? But those are all conversations and anything that we can resume after Wednesday, after we present it to the Human Rights Commission to see what their long-term interest is on this topic.
Great. So it sounds like we'll see what Wednesday brings. Do folks have any other any reactions or insights before we go to close out the meeting about the recommendations?
Chloe has a statement she'd like to make.
Oh, great.
Hi, I know I was having some issues with the microphone. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. I did want to give a PSA to make sure everyone understands that this is the final week of my internship, also the final week of the semester. So I'm doing a lot of exams, which means my capacity is a little bit limited, unfortunately. So I'll make as many updates as I can in my personal free time, but I'm pretty wrapped up in a lot of other things as well. So I will try my best, but I also want to communicate reality that I may not complete all of the requested changes before it ends.
Thank you for telling us that. Those of us who made comments on there, I think, once this goes to the commission, we can still see the comments. So then we can do the edits after that. You need to focus on your studies.
For your understanding, I really appreciate it. And that's all I wanted to say. And thank you for your thank you for thanking me. So yeah, I appreciate it.
Well, before you go, Chloe, we really want to express our immense gratitude to you for, as Robert and others have said already, but just for taking the messiness of the last 6 months, and you stepped into the process and made something really wonderful out of it. And the caliber here wouldn't have been without you. And so we really are grateful for you and for your time and understand that your internship ending obviously is aligns with the end of the term, and we appreciate that as well. I just really do thank you for all of your energy and work that you've gifted us. So thank you so much.
Thank you for saying that.
I wish we could give her like a a parting gift. Are we allowed to do that? We should do that. We should talk to Gretchen about that, or Chris or something. An expression of our gratitude.
Honestly, working with everyone was a gift. So thank you for being wonderful people to work for.
Well, thank you for being generous. Dan, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to just kind of going off what Christina said. would it be best if I just put my few things on into comments within the document?
Yeah,
Or is that effective?
that'd be great, Dan. The only thing we can't do is we can't respond to each other. It's not, we're not allowed to do that.
Correct. But so if I put my recommendations as comments and then we
Actually,
present it on Wednesday,
one second, Dan. Chris, are we allowed to do that? Is he allowed to comment?
Um, does he have access to the document?
I think everyone's a viewer, but I think only Robert and I are editors.
Robert, the only one that have edit.
So Dan, could you email me?
Christina comment on it, but
Yeah, I don't think she was supposed to do that. I mean, I'm glad that she did, but I don't think that was um, kosher. Dan, would you email me?
yep,
Yep.
I can do that. Just you directly or to the entire commission?
Just me and Robert.
Okay,
And we can incorporate it in, and Chris, of course, too, our staff person, and we can make edits and stuff to the document.
sounds good. I'm at my desk, so I'll be working on that probably within the next hour or two.
Thank you, Dan. I don't know if I'll get to it tonight. I'm
That's
probably
fine.
gonna go to bed.
I just want to make sure I have it out to you.
So I'm feeling what little energy I had waiting. Okay, great. Thank you for doing that. I'm sorry. We just have to be sensitive to these serial meeting laws here. Robert, were you gonna say something?
Oh, no, I just had something under member remarks and announcements, so I'll wait.
Okay. Well, are there any staff updates? That's our next agenda item.
no, none at this time.
Okay, thank you, Chris. All right, Robert, member remarks.
Yeah, my member remark and announcement was going to be for Chloe, that if you know of any other students at Willamette University that are looking for internship opportunities, please tell them how great the Human Rights Commission is to intern for. We've really enjoyed having interns. We really enjoyed having you as an intern, and we enjoy having interns and everything serving on the Human Rights Commission. We think it does several things. It one allows us to connect with the university students who are Salem residents for the duration of their time that they're in college, but it also provides much needed support to the Human Rights Commission. All of us on the commission volunteer our time for this. A lot of us have full-time careers or other engagement opportunities and everything, and a lot of organizations and sectors and everything that really try to promote inclusivity, livability, accessibility, and just human rights and dignity amongst our population. So the ability to have interns that can help with a lot of this document planning allows our commissions and our task forces to be more effective, and helps ease some of the strain and everything on the city staff and everything, allowing us to, be able to provide recommendations such as this. So I hope as you engage with, your fellow students, I hope that you'll carry with you your experience hearing on the Human Rights Commission, this Disability Rights Task Force, and that you will share with other students there.
Thank you, Robert. Well said. And I think, unfortunately, not Chloe, but I think our other intern has actually applied to be a member of the commission. So, as a result of her internship, so Chloe, you can apply as well, and encourage others to do that. That'd be, of course, more than welcome. Any other member remarks or announcements? Haley.
I just wanted to thank Chloe again as well, because I know we did throw a whole lot of things at her, and I wish I could articulate the way she did in the time frame she has. Oh, also, could you send me the Human Rights Commission application, possibly?
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you.
I think we have a couple of vacancies. we just got a slate of appointments, but there's always turnovers. All right. Well, in addition to the huge thank you to Chloe, I really wanted to give an enormous uh, thank you to all of you for all the time that you've invested in this effort. All the listening sessions and public engagements, the surveys you were doing, and the conversations that you were having with people to ensure that the information and the experiences that went into these recommendations, which will go on to do a lot of good work in our community, were sound and representative and eventually impactful for folks in our community, people who I think as this process has reinforced and demonstrated are not only marginalized in our communities, but marginalized in our governance and our policymaking and our decision making. And every effort to mitigate that, to change that, to make it untrue, to center people um, in the work that we do here at the city is extremely valuable and is successful in no small part because of the energy and the effort that you've put into it. And so I just really wanted to thank each of you. Um, I've been moved at times and impressed and really just grateful. And we've had folks like Tony who've joined the commission and Haley who wants to join the commission. And I think that's just so beautiful to continue that work. And so really just grateful for all of your leadership and time and thoughts and perspectives and all that's good in these recommendations have come from that and from all the input from the community. So thank you sincerely, and hopefully I know the conversation will continue and hopefully we'll be seeing each other soon, and maybe even as soon as Wednesday. So, uh, with that, if there aren't any other comments or remarks, again, just a huge thank you, and I'll return your Monday evening back to you.
And just one
It's
final shameless plug for those that do watch or listen in is that the next Human Rights Commission meeting is Wednesday, December 3rd, which is a week earlier than normal, but it'll be at 6 p.m. via same location as we're currently at here at the Courthouse Square and online.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. And you too can be one of the tens of people that watch it. So it'd be great. All right. Thank you all and take care. All right. Robert, are we gonna send we have to, we're meeting with Vanessa tomorrow morning, right?
Yeah, I believe we're still on YouTube.
Oh, excuse me. That's never happened to me before. I've never spoken out of turn like that.